Point, click, sick. Critics blasting the White House this week as the president pushes the FCC to regulate the internet. They're calling it the next big government power grab, and the former chairman of the FCC telling me that he agrees.
The statute that the president's calling for being used as our national internet policy is so ambiguously written, I think it could easily encompass a whole host of applications, services, and innovation we never imagined were regulated by the FCC.
And Rich Carlgard, a lot of people are worried about a government takeover of the internet. Could this get us there?
Yeah, it could get us there, and it has all sorts of implications around censorship and so on. But the economic considerations are this. AT&T's CEO Randall Stephenson is ready to spend tens of billions of dollars rolling out next-generation fiber in 100 cities in the United States, and now he's hesitating because he wonders whether he'll be able to get his money back by charging premium services to companies like Netflix. And because this law, if it passes, is that, AT&T wouldn't be able to do that. So he won't invest.
So it's already had an $18 billion impact on our economy, Bill.
Well, the grand theory seems to be that Obama bet on world domination is going to seize every inch of the internet and censor it. I'm not that afraid of that particular outcome. I think what we're going to see here is something much more moderated, which is price regulation in those rare instances where the cable provider, as in my neighborhood, has a monopoly. That's not so bad.
Yeah, but the point is, obviously, it's not going to happen overnight, a government takeover, Mike Ozanian, but it is incremental. And when has the FCC ever made an organization more efficient? We really want the FCC to start regulating the internet?
No, David, this is a bad law. And look, all we have to do is go back to 1996 to see why. That's when the FCC came in with its law, and it basically distinguished between traditional telephone companies, which were regulated and had a cell band below market price, and then the new information services companies. Capital and money poured into the unregulated information service companies. Broadband grew. What we have today is largely due to that. Without that investment, we wouldn't have the internet we have today. And it wasn't until the early 2000s where it freed up the telephone companies and they became unencumbered with those regulations that capital flowed in.
Rick, that's the point. When has the FCC, or any bureaucracy for that matter, ever made an organization more efficient or operate cheaper?
Yeah, it's a fair point to make, but there is something. Look, this is an incredibly nuanced issue, at least I find it to be. Conservatives, of course, abhor government involvement. I get it. I totally do. But there's something that President Reagan showed us that conservatives abhor even more, and that is natural monopolies. That's why Reagan broke up the telephone companies, and we should all be wondering if we would have had the great innovation that we have in that field if he hadn't.
But Sabrina, the worst monopoly of all is a government monopoly because they make illegal any kind of competition, and that's awful for the consumer.
No, absolutely. Look, the technology and the internet that we've all grown to rely on, and it has been especially helpful to working moms like myself, means that it has become as a result of the absence of government regulation, as Mike said. It's not because of it. And I think we have to be very wary. This is absolutely a power grab, and in the wake of the NSA scandal and the IRS scandal, when government is clearly trying to come in and control the flow of information, we should be especially concerned about this.
And, Rich, there's another factor that Mike Powell, the former FCC chairman, said is he's worried about regulation of content. We don't want government censors. I know they're not going to say they're doing it. The FCC wouldn't get into that right now, but eventually that's how we go down the slippery slope of censorship, right?
Well, this administration has not exactly been a friend of the First Amendment, and everybody knows that. But I want to address this point about monopolies, because monopolies don't last in technology. The government thought IBM was a monopoly in the 1980s. It thought Microsoft was a monopoly in the 1990s. It was actually market forces that that brought down the influence of these companies. Interesting company to watch is Google. They used to be for this law that Obama wants, and now that Google is getting in the business of supplying fiber, they've pulled back.
Well, there's been a lot of change of views on this. And, Bill, we now have the majority of the public, according to a new poll just out, 61% of the people polled don't want the government, the FCC, to get involved in the internet.
I don't want the government to be designing my internet, but I would love to have a little bit more competition, not less. And if it would be just terrific if Verizon were to compete with Cablevision in my neighborhood.
But again,
and if they did, I don't need the government.
Hold on. Once again, Sabrina, Sabrina, when has a government regulatory body ever increased competition?
Right, we just finished talking about Obamacare and what a nightmare that's become, and look at the schools for that matter. But look, the fact is the market is responding. There are packages now where you don't have to have everything bundled together. People are responding, companies are responding to market demand, and I think we have to make sure the government doesn't stop that.
Mike?
Yeah, she's absolutely right, and really what it comes down to is, are you going to allow market forces to prevail? And what the FCC will do here, if it listens to the president, it will curb those market forces. It will force unbundling. It will force pricing things below market, and that will cause capital investment to dry up.
All right. I think, by the way, the younger generation is very much opposed to this. From my cold, dead hands, I'll have to take my computer away from me. Well, Loretta Lynch is the